What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another Fantasy Puck video. It's Chris, and today I'm going to be going over our Week 9 preview. Before we get started, guys, I want to know in the comments down below, where would you like to see Brock Besser go? This was something that, was big news over the course of the weekend. If you guys were watching Hockey Night in Canada last night, Elliot Friedman on the 32 Thoughts segment said that, Vancouver's essentially let Besser's agent go out and try and see like what's out there for him. He's definitely struggled as of late and hasn't really performed at where we expected him to. So I'm just curious to see like where would you like to see him end up? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, guys, if you're interested in fantasy hockey and you want to be a part of our constant growing community, make sure you check us out on Discord. Join the Discord. The link will be in the description down below. I'll make sure that there's a new link in for you guys. I know sometimes there's some issues with the link expiring, but definitely make sure that you're joining the Discord if you guys are interested in that. We have a continuous growing fantasy hockey community, which is like even more mind-blowing for us. So guys, make sure that you're signing up for Prize Picks, and make sure that you use code PUCK when you do sign up for Prize Picks. They will match your deposit up to $100 initial deposit. So make sure that you use code PUCK if you're interested in doing that. As well as, guys, be sure to check out our premium fantasy hockey options for you guys. We're constantly thinking of new ways to add value to that as well. So there's going to be a lot more in that area coming soon. But the big things are obviously our trade analyzer and our player projections. So definitely check that out on Patreon, as well as if you are a Patreon member, you definitely got this kind of newsletter of the weekly preview before anybody else did, so that you're able to get those picks in this video up first. So be sure that you guys are signing up for Patreon if you're interested in any of the premium options I just listed. As well as, guys, be sure that you're following us on Twitter. Don does an unbelievable job. I say it every video on this because it's true. He just does such a good job at updating us on all the fantasy hockey trends and news going forward with all that stuff. Make sure that you're following us on Twitter as well. Let's get right into the video. All right, so this week's kind of weird a little bit, and you can see based off of the best schedule that there are a lot of teams that play 4 games and have 2 off nights. So you guys really have like the pick of the litter essentially for this week, whether it's, grabbing a team that only plays 4 times, making sure that you're grabbing a team like St. Louis that plays on 3 off nights, or players from these teams, I mean. So it's definitely going to be important, and we'll talk about the worst schedule in a little bit. But the Monday, the Wednesday, and the Sunday, it's weird that like the Tuesday, Wednesday, are really, really busy nights. All right, so as you can see, we got a bunch of teams to pick from when it comes to 4-game schedules, especially on off nights. The off nights are really weird this week. It's the Monday, it's the Thursday, and then it's the Sunday. It's kind of weird in the sense that this week the super busy nights are a lot of back-to-backs, whether it's the Tuesday and the Wednesday or the Friday and the Saturday. Those are the games that typically have most of the teams playing. And these are kind of like the off nights, the 58th and the 11th. So we'll talk about the worst schedule in a little bit here, but obviously key teams to note is St. Louis has 4 games and 3 of which are on off nights. They also have a back-to-back this week. So definitely something to look at. We'll be covering some St. Louis players in this video for sure, but a lot of teams to pick from, guys. So if you guys do like somebody specific, be sure that you're looking at these teams here. As you see, we go on to our worst schedule. There's 6 teams that only play 2 games. So if you do have more than one or a bunch of players from these specific teams, I would look to definitely stream some players this week. Like I said, the busy nights are kind of the 6th, the 7th, the 9th, and the 10th. And it's kind of a weird schedule this week. Like there aren't a lot in terms of like 10 game slates, but there are some 6 and 7 game slates consistently spread throughout the week, which make it technically the busier nights. But you're probably going to be able to get most of your starters in anyway. So if you're really looking, this week is all about looking for specifics when it comes to matchups, and that's kind of how I filtered out the players that I recommend that we add. It's covering a lot of specifics. So what you should do, and what I recommend that you guys do, is look at the team that you're matching up against and trying to see, okay, like where can I kind of gain ground? Are they worse in positions like, or are they worse in categories like hits? Where am I lacking in power play points? Like what do I need to pick up specifically in order for me to be successful for this week? That's kind of how I'm going about this one video here with week 9. So let's get on to the forward streams. First, we have Ryan O'Reilly of the St. Louis Blues. And if you guys do count faceoffs in your league, chances are this guy's already taken just because he's an absolute faceoff stud. The biggest thing with Ryan O'Reilly, I know he's had a really, really really slow year in terms of his offensive prowess. But the biggest thing the past 3 games is he's starting to see a lot more ice time. He's seen consistently over 19 minutes, guys. And even though he's not playing with somebody like Kyrou or Thomas or Tarasenko, he's still continuing to get a lot of playing time. If we go over and look at his recent stats, he's definitely been a lot better than he has been in the past couple weeks. He's got 4 points in his last 4 games. He's got 9 shots in the over the course of the last 4 games, and it's a little bit skewed because he did have 7 shots in 1 game, but he's hitting, he's blocking, and he's playing over 18, 19 minutes a night. There's some games where he gets up to 22, which is significantly improved upon from where he was earlier in the year. So Ryan O'Reilly's a really good pickup. Again, he gets power play time. He's seeing a lot of minutes. Like, there's nothing not to really like about him, even though his production's kind of slow. William Karlsson of the Vegas Golden Knights is a really good option as well for you guys. If William Karlsson and Riley Smith are taken and you're kind of looking for somebody that hits more of the peripherals category, William Carrier is a really good option. Even though he only plays like 13, 14 minutes a night, he'll still get you a bunch of hits, blocks. He averages around like 2-3 shots a game, and he does get PIMs. So if you guys are in bangers leagues, William Carrier is a good option. But I like William Karlsson a lot just for the fact that, you know, number one, he's dual eligible center left wing. He's second line. He gets power play time. He's been pretty good in terms of his production as of late. He's kind of like the opposite of Riley Smith, where Riley Smith is more of a goal scorer, where William Karlsson seems to be the setup guy on that line. So kind of pick and choose what you need specifically for your week. I just like William Karlsson, and again, because of his dual eligibility, it basically guarantees that I'm going to be able to get him in the lineup for 4 games this week. He's 32% owned, so definitely in those like 10-team leagues, he's a pretty good streamer option. He should be available in 12-team leagues as well. And if you guys do count faceoffs, like this guy's another really good option for you guys. William Karlsson seems to be taking the majority of the faceoffs on the second line, if not all of them. Pavel Zacha is, again, a really good option. Number one, he's triple eligible, but the biggest thing that I like about him is that he has that exposure to Pasternak on the second line, who's just been unbelievable again. Like, Boston's power play is just incredible, that first power play. So a lot of it's hard to kind of get exposure to that, but Zacha does get exposure to Pasta at 5-on-5, playing on that second line with Krejci. Again, you get him for 4 games. He's triple eligible. He's 4% owned. He's a really good streaming option for you guys just because of how good Boston's been. And they put up 5 against Colorado last night, which was, I didn't expect it to be that big of a blow up. But like, Francouz was in net, so kind of a difficult matchup for Colorado in that sense that they had to play their backup. But I really like Zacha, again, triple eligible. You get him guaranteed essentially for 4 games this week, and he's 4% owned. Connor Sheary, speaking about exposure, is getting exposure to Alex Ovechkin on the first line there. He's also playing alongside Dylan Strome. And again, left wing, right wing eligible, 4% owned. Good for the deeper leagues, especially. You get them for 4 games this week. Same kind of schedule as Boston and Vegas, where, you know, they're not playing on any back-to-backs this week. So you kind of get them on the offsetting nights, even though you do get them for two busy days, which is the 7th and the 9th. Same with Karlsson and Zacha. But again, like, these busy nights aren't really as busy as they normally would be, where you have like a 14-game slate and it's just impossible to get players in. So the 7th shouldn't be as bad, and the 9th, I believe, is a little bit more on the busier side, if I remember correctly. But moving on to defensemen, the way I kind of go about streaming defensemen, and again, completely up to you guys, is I just want as many peripheral stats as possible, and I want as many games as I can get in with these guys that offset from my starting defenseman, just because a lot of the time it's pretty uncommon, I would say, to run like 6 defensemen on a team, depending on what your league size is. Typically, there's only 1 extra defenseman that you have, just because of, like, you know, the fact that, like, you want to get forwards in there because they primarily score and shoot more. But if you're counting things like blocks and hits, these guys are really good options. Like Colton Parayko, for example, is just like, he's a peripherals machine. He shoots, he blocks, he hits. He's 8% owned. He's on St. Louis, who has the best schedule this week. And you get him on 3 off nights for sure, as well as a back-to-back. Rasmus Ristolainen example. Again, he's been an absolute stud when it comes to hits and blocks specifically. He's a must-own in bangers leagues. And I believe that, you know, just out of these 3 options, out of Parayko, Ristolainen, and McNabb, if you need hits and blocks, he is the best option for you. Or if you need one of those specific categories, like Risto is definitely the best option for you. He's getting more and more ice time as well this year in Philadelphia, so that's interesting to keep an eye on. He's actually a really good fantasy defenseman. and he's only 6% owned. So he's honestly like somebody that I would recommend having as your fifth defenseman in the league if you're able to snag him, just because of how good recently he's been in those hits and blocks category. Moving on to Braden McNabb of the Vegas Golden Knights. There's a reason why he's 25% owned. He has a probably the same shot rate as Parayko. I think he's like 4 shots behind him currently on the year, but he has such a incredibly high rate when it comes to shots and blocks that it makes him 25% owned. Over the past 14 games, I believe Risto is, again, better in those two categories. It depends really on what you're looking for versus hits and blocks, but McNabb is very, very, very well-rounded when it comes to hits and blocks, and it's at a very high rate. He's got 61 hits on the year with 57 blocks. And again, like there's a reason why he's 25% owned. If you're able to get your hands on him and you need a peripherals defenseman, this guy's an absolute stud. He will have definitely more shot volume than Risto. But again, like I think Risto is better when it comes to just looking at hits and blocks. Erik Gustafsson is very difficult to find exposure to power play, especially for defensemen that are under 10% owned. Like a lot of the teams that play 4 games this week didn't really have a power play one defenseman that was available for like that was, like I said, below let's say like 30-40% owned. Like it's just you can't find it because they're all taken at this point. But Erik Gustafsson does get exposure to Alex Ovechkin on the power play, and he does get exposure to Kuznetsov on the power play as well. So they really just swap him and Carlson. He's definitely, if you need power play points, like he hasn't, he's gone through a stretch where he hasn't had a lot of power play points in the last little bit. But again, like he's playing power play too. He's getting over 20 minutes a night. Like he's shooting the puck like once or twice a game. He's got a couple games where he's had over 5 shots. He blocks as well too. Like in the past 5 games, he's had, like a total of like 10 blocks. So like you're getting a little bit of exposure to those peripheral stats. But again, like there is a possibility that he does get some power play points just based off the fact that, Washington's playing 4 times this week. And, it's like I said, it's tough to get exposure to power play defensemen. Sean Dursey is another good example. I've used him in previous videos, though. He's definitely a lot more owned. But for deep leagues, I wanted to give you guys a good option for some power play exposure, even though as of late, Gustafsson hasn't really produced on the power play at all. But again, like I said, like there's obviously better options available, but for 1% ownership, I think it's a good punt option for me, especially if you just have a lot of defensemen that are kind of clogged, or you've seen like one of your defensemen go down and you want kind of like a little bit of exposure to a power play guy. I think Gustafsson's like a pretty good option. Like I said, even though his track record as of late has not been good on the power play, he's still technically getting power play 2 time. All right, moving on to goaltending, we have Karl Vejmelka of the Arizona Coyotes, and this is an interesting one because a lot of the time I don't like recommending Arizona, especially when it comes to goaltending, but Vejmelka's been very good as of late. He sees a ton of volume consistently, and, he's actually been like very, very good as of late, explaining why he's 47% owned, and, he's got 2 good matchups on off nights this week. Calgary hasn't been good as of late at all. I probably try and shy away from that matchup. Say, for example, you have like Markstrom, for example, who I'm going to talk about in a second, who just has seen a lot lower volume as of late just because of his play. Same thing with Demko. I think Vejmelka is a really good option if you can snag him. But I really like that matchup against Philly on the 11th. Philly's terrible, and Arizona has honestly looked like they're a tough team to play against. So I like Vejmelka. I would again look at him if you guys count saves in your league. Vejmelka I think is an absolute ad, just outright, and a really good streaming option for this week because he gets 2 games that are kind of on off nights. So if you need help in the goaltending department, I don't think it's as big of a risk as you think, especially because of how bad Calgary's been and a really good matchup against Philly. Dan Vladar of the Calgary Flames, I expect this ownership to absolutely skyrocket in the next coming weeks, especially because number one, like he's just going to get more playing time because Markstrom's been terrible, which is shocking. And we kind of talked about Markstrom in other videos previously, but I wanted to touch on Vladar because, like I said, he's 4% owned. He's been good. He's been much better than Markstrom this year for Calgary, and he's got a good matchup against Buffalo this week on the 5th, which is an off night on the Monday, which is tomorrow. So make sure you guys grab this guy at the beginning of your week. I'm definitely going to see if I can pick this guy up just because the leagues that I do own Markstrom, like he hasn't been like, I can't play the guy, similar to Demko, where it's just that he's been so bad as of late. He's definitely not worth dropping, but I definitely need help in the goaltending category. So I'm looking to pick up Vladar this week if possible. And then he might get that matchup against Columbus. It depends. Not entirely sure. Keep your eyes on for that kind of in the later end of the week. And it is on one of the busier nights. So you probably have 2 goaltenders starting in that sense anyways. David Riddick, again, gets a back-to-back against Chicago. We love matching up against teams like Chicago, just especially on back-to-backs. Like Chicago doesn't have a back-to-back, but Winnipeg does, and Winnipeg's been very, very good as of late. So I don't mind that matchup at all. He's 14% owned, should be readily available to most leagues. And again, like December 9th, like later in the week. So if you guys are struggling with your goaltending early and you need a solid matchup, I think that's a pretty good option against Chicago. And then same thing with Philip Gustafson. He plays against Vancouver. Vancouver has been very bad as of late too. And Gustafson's actually been solid. So I, again, would look to try and pick Gustafson up later in your guys' week if you guys need goaltending. And if you don't like the Riddick matchup against Chicago, Gustafson gives you guys another option moving forward for your guys' leagues. So that's going to do for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, I want to know in the comments down below where you'd like to see Brock Besser end up. What do you think the deal is going to be, maybe, if you guys are that creative and you want to put together a deal? But I just want to get your guys' opinion, because I was thinking the other day of where I would like to see him end up, and I couldn't really come to a conclusion just because I really don't know who would be interested in grabbing him. But I definitely think he's undervalued right now, and I think, again, maybe the guy just needs a fresh start. But thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. We got lots more coming for you guys this week. And I will see you in the next video. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of your day.